everybody, and welcome to Whiskey at Work.
This is another one of your bad ideas.
This is a bad idea because I'm drinking what you paid for. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Whiskey at Work. I always have to make eye contact with you when I do that.
I know, it's creepy.
Now
as
I
hell.
have to. That's just a thing
Is that
I
a
have to
thing
do.
now?
Yes.
Good.
You and I have to look at each other first, and then we can introduce Gabe and Dan Bruner from Timmins Market. Okay? Perfect. Now that we've got that out of the way, I have a feeling this one's going to be a lot better than last week's.
For he's the only Gabe.
Hello. What did I say? There was another one?
No, but you gave both of his names, and now it's just Gabe.
Well, I think we're...
It's like I forgot Gabe's last name, so I'm going to say Dan Bruner.
We're turning Gabe...
Well, he's much more important than
we're turning
that.
We're turning Gabe into a brand right now is what we're doing.
Oh, is
he's
that
just
it?
going to be Gabe. I can see that on a bottle of whiskey. I can hear that.
Me too. Let's do it.
Gabe.
It's going to be the deli salesman on the Letterman show.
No, we're going to class this up is what
More
we're
like
going to do.
Prince or Cher or Madonna. Like they didn't need a second name.
No, exactly. And Gabe, we're just going to start you off that way. No, we're glad you're back, Gabe, because you brought the bottle of whiskey this time. So we're really, really glad you're back. And talking about what you probably most like to talk about is this. Mm-hmm. You said before we started, this is your favorite.
This is
that
one
right?
of my absolute favorite.
Now, wait, you said one of mine.
Well, it's
With
tied.
300 bottles, there's more than one. I mean, that's...
Well, are one of your favorite Japanese whiskeys? One of your favorite whiskeys in general?
I will say this distillery
Okay.
is probably my favorite Japanese distillery.
And I'm assuming when you were there, you were there. Did you go see it? Did you
I
go
was
tour
never
it?
able to because of
What?
COVID. And my last 2 years there, everything was shut down. I couldn't do anything. So yeah, I was real bummed.
Okay.
I'm just glad there's not a pit viper in that bottle.
Yeah.
Funny you should
That's
mention
another
that.
episode.
Okay. Just
Weird thing Gabe has on his shelf.
quick side note.
you have one of those?
How do we get a bottle of
Maybe.
that, Dan?
You don't. Not
Really?
from this guy. No.
Are they-
I haven't slept since I saw his bottle.
Well,
Corey
what we're
Klein
talking
hasn't
about,
slept since he's seen my bottle. Corey, if you're out there, I'm sorry.
Gabe has a bottle of Vietnamese whiskey, isn't it?
It's habusaki.
Okay.
It is an Okinawan traditional
Oh,
spirit.
it is Japanese.
It is.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
Specifically
Vietnamese.
Okinawan.
Okay.
Involving a habu pit viper that they have over there.
Have you had it? Have you tasted it?
Yes.
Is it good?
There were challenges about how much you could drink.
Is it
out
good?
Of the... It's by the time you're drinking habu, you're not.
It's not the starter.
It's
huh?
really it's not as bad as you would think it would be. It's actually pretty good. I like it. That I
You like
really.
it or you like the hallucination?
I like. I can't talk about that,
hallucinogenic
Dan.
effects afterwards.
He's still employed, Dan. He can't be mentioning
For
that.
now.
All right.
bad.
That's
Off topic.
I would love
It's like
to.
Brian's here again.
I would love to dive into that eventually. That would because that was amazing. All right. So then, while you're over there, how did you discover this, Gabe? That this could end up being one of your favorite types of whiskey?
Hakushu was one of my, along with Yamazaki, was one of my first introductions into Japanese whiskey, mostly because in Japan, this was pretty fairly available up until probably the last year. It was getting a little harder to find. I think most places you used to be able to find this for around $40 to $50. It was about 5,500 yen, 6,000 yen, which is about $55. Super good for that price. So this is the no age statement variation from Hakushu. They also make a 12-year, an 18-year. They make a 25-year. I will never see it.
Just because of the price?
The price and how much they make. They also
okay.
make several different cask finishes: Spanish oak, sherry cask, bourbon. They make a peated version of this, which oh my goodness.
Well, when we were just kind of trying to make the TVs work in here to get this brought up, I noticed the price. I think it was the 12-year, wasn't it? Was that in America? Is that
Yeah, so
is that
the
an average around $200 a bottle?
No, that's about secondary for it.
Okay.
You can find the 12-year here. It is getting hard. So they discontinued the 12-year. As of last year, they were bringing it back in small iterations, so they're producing a little bit, but it's not a lot. And actually, it was easier to find the 12-year in the U.S. than it was in Japan. 12-year was $300 in Japan, whereas in the U.S. it's only, if you can find it, you can see it for around $90 to $150.
I don't understand how world economics work.
Well,
you know,
That's why you're in radio.
it is. It has to be why I am.
If you understood that,
It's
you'd
really
be
confusing. I never
Rich?
understood.
or president.
Yeah. Wow.
But it is harder to find now. Like normally, I think all the 12 years I have that I've bought here were around that 140, 150 mark.
And this is from the Suntory. It says on the bottle Suntory whiskey.
Yep, this is part
So-
of the Suntory family, so that includes Yamazaki and Shida. And
Okay.
the mix of all of them, Hakushu, Yamazaki, and Shida, is what makes Hibiki.
Well, okay, yeah. Explain that again, really quick, because this is a Hibiki, correct?
This is Hakushu.
This is Hakushu.
a single malt, one of the components in
That's
Hibiki.
confusing. Okay,
Yep.
so explain that again.
It's because we're just stupid bourbon drinkers.
right.
So,
So
help us
again,
out.
single malt. Just to go back to kind of our Scotch conversation.
Sure,
single
go
malt
all the
is
way back.
Single meaning one distillery,
Right. Mm-hmm.
malt meaning 100% barley. So this is from one distillery, Hakushu, 100% barley, single malt from Hakushu Distillery. It is entirely 100% Japanese whiskey, so it's distilled, barreled, bottled 100% in Japan. This is their forest distillery. It's in the middle of a forest is where it's at, which is why the kind of the bottle's green. It calls forth the essence of forestry.
Right.
You might as well hold that up because you got the camera focused on you. Maybe they can zoom
So
in.
beautiful. That's a great marketing picture. You send that to Suntory.
Yeah, Vanna White, look out.
Well, I don't do pouty lips. I do more of the I'm confused as where I'm at face.
Can we just freeze frame that for a minute? Just
Yeah, it's
He will now.
it's okay. And this since 1973. What is that all the longer? That's
when I believe that's when the distillery came about, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
This was one of the later distilleries put out by Suntory. So originally it was Yamazaki. Mazataka, who again worked for Shinjiro Tori, who started Yamazaki. This is the second distillery they opened up. This was made to mirror Scotch a little bit more. This is actually lightly peated. Very,
I get that.
very
do
lightly
you really?
peated.
Just lightly.
Like I'm talking 5 ppm. It's not much. That's all there to just add.
Are you sure it's not much?
You're the Scotch Lefroy guy. What are you
No,
talking
I'm not.
Oh,
we
yeah.
put that to rest.
about? Oh,
I'm not the Isla guy ever. I've made my peace with it.
what Offerman does.
Shut up. That was 3 years ago.
Lagavulin.
We now move forward with this.
I'm slower when it comes to moving forward.
Which
I
I
put
don't
on
know.
a couple of pounds.
This is not my favorite
This-
of the 3 we've done so far.
This is hit or miss for a lot of people. So for me, the reason I like it is because one, I like peat. So I like the character that has on this whiskey. But once you spend some time with it and it opens up a little bit, there's lots of light fruity notes in there too.
well,
Maybe you should dump some water in it.
I kind of smelled that right off the bat. But what about you, Dan? I mean, you notoriously are not a huge Scotch fan, and this is a more peated version of the Japanese whiskey. So, what's your take on it then?
It's delicious.
What has happened to you?
Are you being facetious?
Are you being facetious?
I thought he
really-
was being sarcastic too.
I really like this one, and I was actually up in Minneapolis a couple weeks ago when I toured Keeper's Heart and
Yeah.
picked our barrel up there. And I sent Gabe a picture of what they had at the hotel bar there, and they had a bottle of the 12-year. And he said, "You have to try it." And it was my favorite pour that I had that weekend, outside of what I had at Keeper's Heart.
I don't even know you anymore, Dan.
I don't even know myself.
I think I know him better now.
You totally do, because you're the one that is been able to almost turn him around on this whole.
Sneak my way right into his heart.
I am surprised. I'm very surprised, Dan. You like this?
Yeah.
What about you then, Rob? Though, I mean, do you like it?
I do like it. I don't think I like it as much as the other 2 that we had. That notwithstanding, I would drink this with Gabe anytime.
As long as he brought the bottle.
I would drink this with
Well, he's
Gabe's
gonna
bottle.
have to
That's
because
the
I don't
key.
have one.
Right, me either.
Okay, so I put some water in it, and it cut out a little bit of that peatiness. But boy, that's still too much. It's still, and I don't. Maybe I don't care to try to learn to like the peaty Scotch either. I don't. That's never going to be my end goal as being a Scotch drinker.
Yeah, well, that's what Dan says.
You know. And now look at him. Look at him, a smug little smile over there, enjoying peat flavor. I don't know. I can't get past
Let's
it.
clarify that peat is the moss that they use to.
Right. The
Otherwise,
earth.
otherwise it gets weird.
But you've
Right, it does.
Pete is fantastic.
Dan's comment. One
That's
of
what
the
Pete's always been saying.
He's a very happy guy.
Yeah.
one of the comments
Clearly.
Dan made when we were doing a whiskey tasting that has always stuck with me when it comes to peated bourbons is that it tastes like a Band-Aid.
We don't have peated bourbons.
I mean peated scotch.
That's a good idea.
It is a
No, it isn't.
terrible
Great
idea.
Stop
We
it.
shall
That's
not be
awful.
making any peated bourbon.
They make it. Kings County.
This isn't quite as
I think.
Band-Aidy as some of those, but it's still that's all I get.
No, not at all. You're wrong.
I'm sure I am. I'm sure that I'm way off
So
base
is
with
everybody
this.
else.
Well, okay. Let's talk. What about what's the nose? You like the nose?
I did.
What is it about the nose that you like?
I like that.
The aroma.
It was a little like kind of a blended fruit juice. A little bit is what it.
Yeah,
very kind of apple
And again,
forward a little
you
maybe.
think forest.
Okay.
Very light, crisp. There's
Right.
some green tea notes.
crisp. There's a good one.
There's
Well, listen, I'm trying. He's
He's doing really good, Rob.
He knows how
You
to
get
do
a gold
this.
star. You get a gold star.
All right. So anyway, yes.
it almost smelled like there are some notes reminiscent of a rye on the nose for me. There's some
See,
spear
okay.
minty notes.
Every time
For
I
me.
think I'm making progress on that, you say something like that, and then I know that I'm still light years beyond.
Like freshly open pack of Wrigley's spearmint bubblegum.
huh? Oh, wait a minute. Okay,
See?
hold up.
I'm in his head.
You are a little bit,
Somebody's got to be.
but Rob and I have talked about that power of suggestion that can
Yeah.
go along with somebody saying that this is what you should be smelling, this is what you should be tasting.
Well, you
then your
should be
brain's
tasting
like,
great. That's what you should be tasting. But clearly that doesn't work.
No.
that was just Pete.
I'm not tasting that.
Poor Pete.
Right. But it's what I'm enjoying so much about the Japanese whiskeys is how familiar but different they really are. You know, they really did. I mean, and Japan is notorious for that, of taking things and finding a way to make them just a little bit better, or finding a new angle or a new twist.
Or a little bit cheaper.
Well, I mean, but
Oh.
that's great too. I mean, that's why would you complain about
Maybe
that?
the
You know,
Chinese. That's never mind.
they always seem to just go all in when they learn something new, and in many ways make it better.
Yeah, the perfect word for me for Japanese whiskey is just delicate. It's delicate. Like it's pretty. All the
That
flavors
makes
are there,
sense, yeah.
but it's delicate at the same time. That's a very hard word for me to
It's a hard word for most men to say. All right.
I'm very confident in my man. No.
Well, I am too, but still delicate.
That explains the new stash.
You know what?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you can.
Get Russ in here to zoom in on that, maybe.
This is beautiful.
It
First
is
of all.
beautiful.
And the peak of manliness.
I'm
Thank
not
you.
arguing.
Yes.
Mike,
Rob.
comes
Right.
in looking like Santa Claus, so
I'm gonna look like the guy from Super Troopers once it's fully done. It's gonna be great.
I can't wait to see you in the
It'll be beautiful.
in the corduroy tan.
Yeah, I'll be like, give me the
shorts or
whiskey right
whatever.
now.
Right meow.
Is this available to us here, Gabe?
So, Dan, have you? I mean, can you get it?
I cannot.
No, that's okay.
That should be a new
It's a
segment
good
on
thing
this.
there's
with
a-
Dan.
there's a
get
bottle
it.
here.
Can Dan get it?
And Dan just going.
So why? Just a distribution thing, Dan? Is that why?
Yeah, I've looked and none of the distributors that we're able to pull product from have that in the portfolio.
Okay. How many do they? Have you noticed with distribution is like a Japanese whiskey? Is that portfolio growing? Are you starting to see more of it, or is it still not really taken off?
I haven't seen
Here.
a ton of growth in Japanese whiskey for sure. There's we've gotten a few. The Shunkashuto
That's so good.
is relatively new. We just got another one, and I cannot think of it off the top of my
Right.
head. That I haven't even actually tried yet that we just brought in. So I think it's up and coming, but slow and surely.
Now, okay, this is going to
The
be
other two that we had here prior to this, though,
Yeah, the
we
cheetah.
can get here.
The Toki and the Nika both.
Or,
yeah.
yeah.
Are available. Okay.
Yep.
So Rob, you've referenced before, especially when it comes to peated scotches, when you
Then when it
when you
repeats
burp
on you a little,
when you burp it up that's a terrible whatever. This tasted delicious on the repeat. I'm not kidding. It really
It
did.
rebounded.
So he
well.
likes burp
Yes,
aftermath
I
flavored
like
whiskey.
burp aftermath of this because it really tasted like
You need to do a barrel pick, just called burp. With his face just on it going,
it's delicious.
trust me.
Well, it's
I still noticed that with this and with Scotch still. It still has. It must be the grain.
So you
It
didn't
repeats
have
on
that
me.
with the other Japanese whiskeys, though, did you?
Not as much as I'm noticing with this one, but with Scotch it does it
And
almost
I
constantly.
wonder if it's the malt
it has
for
to
you.
be.
I wonder if it's the because
It
again,
must
this
be-
is
yeah.
all barley.
It has to be.
well, it is
It
unfortunate.
doesn't keep me
that-
from drinking good stuff, but
right.
it'll keep me from drinking Lafroig ever again because that's a couple of days worth of. Oops.
It's too bad people can't try this because it's very unique. It's a lot of different things, and I think if you're a fan of like 3 or 4 individual tastes from a Scotch or a whiskey, you're gonna find it in here. It's kind of in there.
Yeah, this has a lot to all, and that's what I mean. But it has a little bit of smoke. It has a little bit of peat. It has, for me, it has fruits, light fruits, pear, vanillas. There's some
That's what
rye
I'm getting
ness.
The pear. There you go. Yeah.
And it's just
There's a lot of pear
Yeah.
flavor in the Japanese
oh
whiskeys
yeah,
that we've had.
and that's what Japanese whiskey is very unique in the flavors it can produce, and yet it's just pretty. It's pretty. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I'm gonna label this episode "Pretty and Delicate."
Pretty swallowable.
Pretty
swallowable.
delicately swallowable. Might be what it has to be.
I think for me, the thing I've enjoyed most about tasting through a few of these Japanese whiskeys is like never been a big fan of Scotch, but I have found Japanese whiskey to be much more approachable. I think it's a good segue from somebody that truly enjoys bourbon and whiskey and just I mean, it's robust, it's flavorful. Like to sit back and drink a cask strength offering that just has layers of flavor that you can just chew through and think through is super enjoyable, but you have to take a break from that.
Yeah.
And whether it's Japanese or I've really started to enjoy several different Irish whiskeys. I think it's just a great segue, and I could see how somebody could drink Japanese and then start to move into some of the Scotches.
It's funny you mentioned that. I had a buddy over that is a beer drinker, and he's like, "Well, show me some of your fancy whiskey." So I'm like,
Is that how he said it?
Yeah, kind of. Josh Marler, if you're listening. So I thought, he pours Coke on it. He likes black velvet. The old school, drinks velvet Cokes. As much as I like velvet, I'm not going to drink it with Coke either. But so I poured him the Shunkashudo Spring Edition and just in a glass like this and gave him whatever we've been having, and I can't tell if he was just tolerating it or actually said, I could see myself sitting around sipping on something like this, which is what I've been doing more than than bottoming out on it. You guys have got me doing that. I take a Glencairn and fill an ounce or ounce and a half and just enjoy it more than
Just pounding them back for the sake of
just for the hey, how much can I get through this?
Right.
Can I kill this son of a bitch tonight?
Well, and that's what's been so enjoyable about all of this too, is not only drinking all of the different kinds, but and I know it sounds so pretentious when you say stuff like
No, it
this.
sounds pretentious when you say it.
Sort of. But when you when you really take time to appreciate it, you take time to kind of I don't want to use the word fondle, but that's the word I'm going to go with.
No,
Now
you
you
should
have-
not
yeah.
use the word fondle. Not fondle and moist.
It's a
are
very
out.
moist whiskey. It's-
Right. It's-
But it is, and you shouldn't, I mean, there's a lot of pretentious whiskey drinkers. We know that exists.
Oh, let's not pretend that we
But-
can't be pretentious.
No,
whiskey
we
drinkers, 'cause
100%,
when you get cornered in the liquor
I
store.
guess we'll just
Right.
leave the room at this point. Yes.
Well, we know you
Both
are.
of you two, yes. But it's and that's the the message we're trying to convey a little bit is, don't go into a liquor store. I mean, if you've got money to spend, you're going to go in to buy your normal Jack Daniels or your Jim Beams or whatever.
Hey.
And they're fine. Yes, of course well, Jim Beam, there's an argument to be made there. But man,
Well, they're not a sponsor, so you haven't offended anybody else yet.
don't be afraid to grab something unfamiliar, especially going to a place like Timmons, because Dan has actually taken the time to sift through most of these. He's not going to be like, well, it looks cool, I'm just throwing that shit on the shelf. There's a method to the way you do stuff out there. And I think anybody that goes out there to grab a bottle of anything is going to go home and be like, you know what? This was way better than I thought it was going to be.
You're going to have to move your office closer to the liquor department if this ever catches on.
Right?
Yeah, don't ever be afraid to go and buy some of this stuff. Even, the Japanese, which you can't read most of the labeling for most people out here too. So what, man? Grab it. Even something like this that I don't prefer, I could still pour 2 more glasses of that and appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I would say the two that are at Timmons right now, the Nika Coffee Grain and Toki, are great starting points. The Nika Coffee Grain is just, it's a good whiskey on its own.
I enjoyed that.
I really like that one.
Go back a couple of weeks and watch the video on it. You'll see that it was delicious. So
maybe, should we do a little tasting of Nika Coffee Grain sometime at Timmons?
You never know.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh,
Give
well,
it a shot.
maybe you heard it here first, although Gabe and Dan had the sidebar over there, and I don't really know what's going on. But sure, it's our show or whatever, but you guys go ahead.
You wouldn't understand.
Please invite us out. No, if you get a chance to try any of that Japanese, grab a bottle. This you're not going to be able to get here. Gabe, thanks for bringing it in, man. That's very cool of you to do. And like you've said, it's what's the point of having it if you really can't share it with some people?
Yeah. So like I said, if you can, the 12 years out there, if you see it, highly recommend it. It's, for me, it's worth the 140, 150 mark. It takes all these notes and kind of rounds out even more and kind of emphasizes the pear and fruit notes. The peat isn't as present. It is more on this, but yeah, 12 years fantastic.
Excellent.
If anyone sees it.
Thank you guys for coming back in again, man. I appreciate it. Want to do one more of these Japanese ones? Or do you want to, what should we do next?
As long
I
as
don't
there's
care.
not a viper
I think
bottle, I don't care.
We might have to get
Hakushu.
that. Yeah, let's bring it in.
Dan has to wear the viper on his neck if you're drinking.
Is that like a thing? Like when it's done, do you have to do something with the
You
snake?
have to eat the snake when you're not.
Oh my God.
Corey's like, if he's watching, he's like,
Now we're
turning.
out. All right, well, thanks for hanging out with us here at Whiskey at Work. Dan, Gabe, Rob.
Why am I last?
You have to be on the end. I
You're the best.
introduced
Save
you.
the best for last.
Yeah.
Hot.
Yeah.
Just drink.
Okay.